It's 4 o'clock in Los Angeles. It's 6 o'clock in Chicago, and it's 7 p.m. in New York City. Hello, everybody. This is Mad Dog DeCipio. This is America's Popcast. What's the Buzz? I'm joined, God help me, by Amelia the Pitbull Chapman for yet another evening of merriment and mayhem. How are you, Amelia?
Doing good. How are you?
I want to know. Oh, Jesus. Well, I want to tell you what. We had one hell of a show last night.
Yes.
It's so fun, so much fun. We're going to do it again.
Yes.
Randy Dominguez is back. He is the producer of the Jersey Sound. And I'm going to tell you what. If you guys don't win some kind of an award, some kind of doc award or music award, then it's just plain old robbery because you guys are amazing. You put together, you said last night, Randy, that you put together like the premium crew and you weren't bullshitting. You weren't lying at all. These guys are good stuff. I got two more tonight. These guys are characters, folks. I can already tell you. 5 minutes with them off camera was enough to this. We're going to have a good time tonight. Yes, indeed. Because this is our Friday.
Hell yeah.
Let me reintroduce Randy Dominguez. He is the producer of the Jersey Sound. You can find more about the Jersey Sound at thejerseysound.com. Visit the website. It is chock full of all kinds of interesting information. Let me introduce everyone to our friend Mark Mulch. He is the music supervisor on the Jersey Sound. Mark, welcome to What's the Buzz?
Yes,
How are you, my friend?
Thanks for having me.
Nice to be had, isn't it?
I like being had.
Oh my God.
And Steve Brown. He is the founder, lead guitarist, music supervisor, editor, the good guy. He gets the coffee for Trickster. That's Mr. Trickster.
That too.
Oh shit.
Yes,
Oh, man.
indeed.
Welcome. Let
Great
me
to be
start with
here.
you guys. I want to
It's
start
an
with you
honor and
guys.
privilege. Thanks for having me.
I'm honored to have you and of course Steve here. And Mark, we're gonna have fun. I'm gonna be fucking up tonight. I can tell you right now. I want to start with you guys since you got me on a roll already. Steve, since your name is already up, we'll talk to you first. Before we went on air, and look at serious for just a second. You talked about Trickster. You were the founder, a guitarist, songwriter for Trickster. Your love of music, where and when did it begin? And when did you know that this was your calling?
Well, my love of music started back. The first recollection I have was 1973. And I was 3 years old at the time when my parents watched the Elvis Aloha special that was broadcast all around, I guess, the first satellite thing. And I remember seeing that when I was a little kid at my house in Paramus, New Jersey. I grew up in Paramus, Spring Valley Road, one of the greatest streets in America. And I remember watching that, and I was so young, but I remember watching the reaction of my mom, watching Elvis and seeing Elvis in that white suit, and he was so tan. And I just remember going, there's something special there. Fast forward a couple years later, 1978 was the big year for me musically. 2 records changed my life forever. It was Kiss, Rock and Roll Over, and Van Halen 1. And those 2 guitar players in those bands, Ace Frehley and Eddie Van Halen, were the 2 single guitar players that made me want to start taking guitar lessons. And probably 2 or 3 months after getting both of those albums, my mother took me to Musically Yours music shop in Maywood, New Jersey, and took me in to take guitar lessons. Now, a great story about that was we went in to rent a guitar because I didn't have a guitar at the time. And the guy asked my mother, is Steve righty or lefty? And she goes, oh, Steven's lefty. And the guy behind the counter goes, it'd be cheaper if he learns how to play righty. So I'm a left-handed guy who plays guitar righty, all because of economics and because some numbnuts behind the counter said it would be cheaper. But, 40 plus years later, it's all worked out okay.
He apparently never heard of a guy named Paul McCartney.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, or
Jimi Hendrix, yeah.
Or
and
Jimi
all-
Hendrix. Yeah, thank you.
And
We
what's
have
crazy
an
about
interesting connection here, Steve. We have an interesting connection to Elvis. I met Elvis in 1977, about a month before he
man.
died. And Amelia's husband used to work for Elvis.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Her husband, Jeff, was Elvis's groundskeeper.
Yes.
For real, for shoot,
There
straight
you
up.
go.
Yeah.
And so I have a connection to Elvis. So my connection is my next door neighbor, Nadine Frederick, who grew up in Memphis. She went to high school with Elvis. She went to Humes High School. And so that was she would always tell me, I remember seeing Elvis playing under the tree, you know, that they show in all the movies. And everybody thought he was weird, but all the girls loved him, you know. And it was kind of like Trickster, because that's when, you know, I started Trickster when I was 12 years old in Paramus, and I was playing sports, and then all of a sudden, a year later, I had long hair, and everybody thought I was weird. But then the next thing you know, fast forward a couple years later, I'm on MTV, and all those people who thought I was weird were asking for free tickets for the show at the Metal.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So true.
Brother, I'm going to tell you something.
True.
Your story parallels mine in so many ways you don't even know. You may not know it by this head of hair now, but mine, I looked like Mark at one point, okay? Except not as good looking. I just had the hair.
He did have the hair.
Let's talk to Mark much. Mark, you were the music supervisor on the Jersey Sound film. How did you get snookered? I mean, how did you get the job? How'd you get rooked into doing this one?
You know, it's funny. It's all this guy's fault right here. It's all his fault. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So Steve was nice. Steve was nice enough to get me involved and get me interviewed for the movie, which was great. So Fulvio came down and he interviewed me at an awesome recording studio here in Nashville called Welcome to 1979. And we had a great interview together, and I played for them live and all this other different stuff. Talked about the scene here in Nashville and what it was like to move down. I've been in Nashville now for 19 years, but you know, grew up in Jersey and had my bands in New Jersey and everything. That's how Steve and I met. Steve and I met on the hard rock scene in the clubs in New Jersey when we were both very young men.
Wow. Got it. The magic question I asked a couple guys last night. Your first experience at the Stone Pony.
Oh yeah.
Talk
Playing
to me
the Stone
about
Pony. Geez, my band, the Lemongrass Band. We got a chance to play at the Stone Pony. Ooh, I can't even remember what year it was, but I mean, everybody wanted to play the Pony. I mean, that's the place.
Yeah,
that's when you know things are going in the right direction.
There's something magical about that place. I think. Remember, we spoke about that last night, Randy. The aura, the magnetic draw of the Stone Pony. There's magic in them walls. There's a lot of history in those walls. Oh, yeah. You can hear, you know, the first riffs of, you know, Bruce Springsteen and the first time Clarence ever, you know, picked up the sax in that building. It's amazing. You know, it's like the hallowed halls of Asbury Park. So Randy, let's talk about right in line with that. Let's talk about the sanctity of the Jersey Sound. How do you preserve what many people considering, even though there are more musicians in New Jersey per capita than anywhere in the country, how do you preserve that sound, knowing that with every passing generation, we lose a little bit more of that legacy, that lineage? How do we save it?
I think that's a great question. But, you know, if I said to you then in another 50, 75 years, you're still going to remember Frank Sinatra. You're still going to remember Bruce, Bon Jovi, Steve Brown. Right. Certainly not me. I'll be kind of doggone by then. But these guys, and I think there is a sort of magic that just seems to continue. I'll bring it up at the point. Last night we had Ryan Hanratty, the editor, and Connor Bracken from Mother Leeds. And now there's sort of the new generation of musicians coming in, and we asked them specifically about the Stone Pony, and they also said it sort of exudes this sort of magic that they felt playing there. I think Ryan was a limited time, but in playing there, they felt that, and I think there is something magical about that just seems to really engulf the musicians of New Jersey. I think more so than other places, because you're talking jazz, metal, rock, rock, even country and western. There's just something about this. New Jersey you're also talking about, R&B. All of these different musical genres just seem to resonate in New Jersey. They can be specific to certain geographic areas and cities, but generally across the board, I think you just feel this vibe that it's going to live forever because we're never going to forget.
Very well put. Very well put. Now, gentlemen, I got to bring in this fine, lovely young lady here, because if I don't, I'll never hear the end of her mouth. Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman. Questions, Amelia?
First, I want to know how you came up with the name Trickster for your group, for your band.
Well, it was back in the 80s, so you needed to have a captivating name, and so the original name for Trickster was Raid, R-A-D-E. And no, not the bug spray. It was kind of a play on. It was Def Leppard was a big influence, and that was the spark. That was the initial light bulb moment that I had for starting Trickster, because I had read in Circus magazine that Rick Allen was 15 years old when he joined Def Leppard, and I read that and I go, that's it. I'm gonna have my band is gonna be. I was 12 years old at the time when I read that article. And I said, I'm going to start my own band, and we're going to be younger than Def Leppard. We're going to sing higher. We're going to jump around more. We're going to be faster, younger. We're going to get more girls. We're going to be cuter. We're going to have better hair. And that's sort of what we did. But, the name Trickster, after, we did one show as Raid in the beginning of 1984. We played the middle school, Eastbrook Middle School in Paramus, New Jersey, where my father was the vice principal. So and no, we didn't get paid extra for that, but we changed the name. I came up with the name Trickster. Actually, I was a big Ozzy Osbourne fan. Randy Rhoads was a huge influence on me as a guitar player, and I had saw that on Ozzy's label Jet Records, which was owned by his father-in-law, Sharon Osbourne's dad, Don Arden. They had a band on that label called Trickster. And it was spelled Trickster, like Trickster. And I was like, that's a really cool name, but it's not heavy metal enough. But if you put the X in the middle and have the X go out, boom, you're home. That's it.
Absolutely.
And then I don't think you wouldn't deal with trademark bullshit either. So it was really simple. And then that was the light bulb moment, because we were also young and, we were hot dogs, if you will, and we were pranksters and playing jokes on each other. And 40 years later, I think it served us well.
That's awesome. And,
actually, Emily, my apologies. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Randy. Go ahead.
I just want to bring this out because it happens to be a song that I really do enjoy. I think it was last year, and I'm going to let Mark and Steve answer this. They collaborated on a song. It's actually really a very fun video they also did. Steve does an amazing job with the riff, considering he's got clothes that do not match at all, with shoes that I'm not sure where they came from. But they work for him for some reason.
It's more rock and roll that way.
Listen, it's a fun song. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I still even play it once in a while because it just lifts me up, because it is an uplift song, and they have a lot of blondes. Nevertheless, I'm going to let Mark and Steve answer, bring that up.
Yes.
I'll tell you what.
Steve and I have been.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
sir.
sorry, Steve. Go ahead. Absolutely. Go for it.
No, Mark's gonna
Oh,
talk.
yeah. No, Steve was good enough to be on a track that me and some friends here in Nashville did together, a band called American Blonde and myself, and we had a song called Sundays. being in your sun days, like, you know, and on any given day. And Steve was nice enough to come down to Nashville and play guitar on the track. And then we put a music video together where we all filmed where we were at the time. So me and the girls filmed down here in Nashville, and Steve filmed, I think, up in Ringwood, New Jersey, right?
Where I live in Cupsaw Lake.
Oh, wow.
Down the lake. In my bathing suit, I brought my guitar. I was gonna film it on my paddleboard, but I was gonna try to get out and play my guitar on the paddleboard, but I opted to just stay on land.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a super fun song, and thanks for bringing that up, Randy.
Yeah.
Can you feel the sincerity in that man's voice?
I know, right?
Steve, you mentioned a couple of times within probably a minute of doing so, the term "that's rock and roll" or "this is more rock and roll." You used that term a couple times. Define rock and roll for me. Is it an attitude, a sound, a lifestyle? What is it?
You
all
nailed
three.
It. It's all three. It's all encompassing.
There you go.
You know, and I tell people all the time, you know, my 1978 was my sort of shot in the arm. Instead of getting a chicken pox shot, I got shot with rock and roll, and it stayed with me. And it was, it overpowered everything in my life. And I became addicted to playing guitar all the time. I started writing songs at a young age. And it was all about the love of rock and roll and all things and all styles of music. You know, though I'm a hard rock, heavy metal guy, pop metal guy, if you will, I love every style of music, whether it's classical, whether it's rhythm. I really love rhythm and blues. And country music and everything. So, you know, again, rock and roll is more, to me, it's more of a lifestyle. I don't care what style of music you play, but you can bring a rock and roll attitude to it. But I also, you know, one of the big things I still believe in at 54 years old, let's thank God for hair dye, because I still think image is so important in how you present yourself, you know, and it's, man, I always make it a point, you know, that at my age, still performing, 40 years of playing with Trickster and all the other things I do, I work my ass off to be in shape. You know, I'm not a big guy, big fan of fat rock and roll stars. You know what I mean? So rock and roll, man, be it. And you got to live it. And you owe it to the fans out there to stay in shape. And Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood and Paul McCartney and Ringo, they're a testament to that. Look at those guys. Still 80 years old, dyeing their hair. And I think, you know, Ringo still has a 28-inch waist. So you got to give him credit for that. That's fucking rock and roll.
Ringo was just
I'll tell you what, you know, Keith Richards died.
Still be here right now.
Keith Richards died 20 years ago. They just forgot to tell him. But I'll tell you, I want to ask Randy. Randy, I have a question for you. Kind of a technical question. When did principal photography begin on the film?
You mean actually the interviews?
1987.
No, the first principal photography. When was the first filming in earnest? When was it?
I believe that Fulvio started filming, I want to say, I think October of 2019.
Okay.
Okay. And it sort of progressed from there. At the time, you know, we just didn't have all the connections, and it was really a combination of two things. You know, we were fortunate that the musicians that Fulvio interviewed said, "Hey, you really need to talk to this guy." I think I mentioned that last night. And then eventually, when we connected with Steve and then Mark, they opened up the floodgates to allow for a lot more musicians to come in. We did have other individuals on the very early stages who had some connections, who were able to get the foot in the door to be able to have them, you know, be willing to initially talk. When they heard, you know, what the genesis of the film was, they said, "Yeah, this, you know, this, we got to do this. This is for the history books."
What place do you want this film to have in the annals of either music history or film lore history. What is your ultimate goal? Where do you want it to be?
I just I wanted, I think, people to look at this as a historical film with some great entertainment who really represent the history. Again, an abridged version. We have talked about doing additional episodes, but at least in a 90-minute film. I mentioned Unicorn 151 last night. When I asked him what did he think about the film, he said, I learned more from this and more facts about what New Jersey music is about than I realized. Excuse me. I realized was there.
Yeah.
And if I can take anything, is the fact that we can educate people what New Jersey's about. It's not just the Garden State. It's a music state as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Amelia, questions for Randy?
Yeah, of course. Steve or Mark, I mean, you guys, what was y'all's favorite song to write?
Oh boy, it's like asking him who's your favorite kid.
Right?
Geez, I don't even know. There's so many. So I mean, I got like over 1,000 songs probably. So that's a tough one right there. You know, I loved writing music with my band back in New Jersey was called the Lemongrass Band, and we were part family, and then my best friend from college. So it was my nephew Casey, my brother-in-law Phil, and my best friend from college AJ Perna, who we unfortunately lost 2 years ago. But we had a great time writing songs, and I would write a song pretty much once a week, and then we'd get together in my basement, and we would just next thing you know, we'd have it together in about 5 minutes or so, and then just like true Jersey guys, we'd rehearse it that night 2 or 3 times, and then Friday night we were playing it at a club.
That's
so
awesome.
but it's hard to pick just one song. I wrote a song a couple of years ago that was on my last EP that I put out. It's called Beach Up in Heaven, and it's about Ocean Beach, New Jersey, where that's really where I say I grew up, because I spent all of my summers in Ocean Beach. That's where Steve-O and I met at a club in Staten Island, New York. But we quickly found out that Steve's family had a house down the shore. We were down the shore, and we made a plan to meet up like a week or so later with our girlfriends, and then we found out that we both had a love for Van Halen, the mighty Van Halen, and we've been best friends ever since. We were just saying, I said, do you think 40 years ago we would be huddled up in my condo in Nashville doing a podcast about a film that we worked on together? And Steve said, yeah, I did. I did think that would happen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Beach Up in Heaven. I think now that I'm there, I would say Beach Up in Heaven is a song that's really, really close to my heart. So I'll go with that one.
I want to talk about the art of songwriting, and you guys are the two to do it with. Let's talk a little bit about what goes into making the perfect rock song.
Ooh,
a perfect rock song. How do you take these moving parts, put them together, and have them make sense? Do the lyrics come first for you? Does the music, the melody, is there a sound? What construct the perfect rock song for me?
Well, I think, let's keep it on the Jersey thing. And I think one of the sort of common threads that all of us Jersey songwriters have, whether it's Mark, myself, the Skid Row guys, the Bon Jovis, Bruce, Southside, Little Steven, there's an emotional, and there's the most important thing, I think, is a good story. The lyric starts it, to where you have an interesting storyline that's going to tell. And for me, perfect rock songs, it's got to have a great tempo. You got to be, I think 120 beats per minute is a magical starting point, whether you're a couple ahead or a couple behind. As long as you're in that ballpark because I think, especially with Jersey, it's about dancing, feeling good. And even if the song is on a darker lyrical side, if it feels good, if it feels sexy, and then for me as a guitar player, it's got to have some great guitar riffs in it. It's got to have the powerful, and a great bass line, all of those things that are going to come together in an emotional thing where people, and by the time you get to the chorus, there's going to be some sort of big chorus, whether it's Bruce with Badlands, Trickster with You're One in a Million to Me, and then arguably, you know, probably the second New Jersey national anthem. Oh, we're halfway there. Whoa!
There you go.
And it's something that's going to get
Yeah.
it's that powerful. By the time you get to the chorus, everybody's ready to take off. And I think that's, you know, and again, I think I'm speaking for a lot of people when it comes to rock and roll, powerful songs. It's got that thing. I can't get no satisfaction. You know, we are the youth gone wild.
Very good.
I'm gonna tell you what.
Those are good.
There
Very
is
good.
Yes, awesome.
there's
Yay.
much to be
We're here all
absolutely.
week.
There's much to
Try
be
the
said.
rib.
One of New Jersey's greatest heroes was a fictional rock and roll star named Eddie Wilson. Eddie and the Cruisers.
Eddie and the Cruisers. Yep.
We,
one of my favorite movies of all time.
We've actually had Michael Paré on here, and I'll give you a little heads up. I was in that picture.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
We talked about. He remembered me a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
One of the things that in this area, particularly in the southern New Jersey area, that elevated our stature was that the film was entirely shot here in South Jersey. Although, other than Tony Mart, of course, it being in northern New Jersey, it's about a fictional rock star who made incredible music as played by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. What was it? And both of you guys, I want you to chime in and take your time. I want to dissect this. What was it about the music in that film that so resonated with everyone? I mean, everyone, young and old, who saw the film, who listened to the soundtrack, who bought the music.
I would say that it's similar to what Steve just said. I mean, such great songwriting in that film. That whole entire film, every single song is just amazing. John Cafferty did an amazing job on those songs. You got a Dark Side, which is the anthem, and then you got
yes,
what was the ballad again? Summer Nights.
When the sax player died, when he had to go play the show, or Tender Years, was it Tender Years?
Tender Years,
yeah. Just such great and great musicianship too. Great musicianship in that band.
Oh my God, those guys were all top notch. All top notch. John Cafferty at 74 is still playing and still packing them in. Amazing.
And I can't remember I don't remember who unfortunately the actor's name, but that guy did a great. It's not easy to do the lip syncing and the whole thing and make it seem so authentic.
Michael Paré, we've had him here.
Michael Paré. So
and Michael's a friend of mine.
Authentic. Yeah, very authentic in his in his portrayal of that.
The interesting thing about, and thank you for saying that, Mark, I appreciate it, because one of the things about it is that Michael Paré's speaking voice matches pitch for pitch with John Cafferty's singing voice.
You're right.
I have never seen or heard that kind of blending of two separate voices to become one like that. It's just remarkable. Amelia, you got questions for the guys?
Yes, Mr. Dominguez. Whenever you got everybody together to do the film, did it just like fall into place, or do you already know who you were going to cast as far as who's going to do the editing, who's going to do everything else, like productions, everything like that?
Well, that was, we went through some bumps of the road at the beginning. Ultimately, Ryan Hanready, who we talked to last night, became the primary course. And there were differences of opinion in terms of the direction of the film. But Ryan was able to, think about this, 200 and almost 300 interviews, which is about close to 600 hours of time that an editor is actually going to have to spend on the film. We actually had a second editor that worked with Ryan at the time, Michael Burlingame. He had a slightly different vibe. But what I liked about Ryan is we were talking one time. He says, I don't necessarily agree with some of the direction it's going. It's not up to me to give the direction, but given the limitations that we had, one of the fundamental problems was that the same 10 questions were asked to every interviewee. And that represented a huge problem for the editors. How do we piece all these together when everybody's basically answered the same question? So it took quite a bit of time to do this. But, and I have to give Fulvio credit, he introduced me to all of these individuals who I felt were brilliant and added a lot of value. But the kicker was that they were willing to speak up and say, we don't necessarily agree. I think we need to look at this way. One of the biggest riffs that Fulvio and I had was the narration. He didn't want it at all. And I said that I just don't see how someone in Colorado or Argentina or Russia now, as the movie's going to be shown, is going to really understand where all these cities and the significance of those cities to those musicians who played there. Asbury Park, it's well known. We get it. Hoboken is associated with Frank Sinatra, even though there's a lot more musicians that came from there. But when you talk about some of the other places, some of the other clubs that weren't in Asbury Park, I think it was important to sort of put it into context. Yeah. Also, at the very beginning, and Mad Dog, you had mentioned this yesterday in terms of the opening. And by the way, before I mentioned this, I've had a number of people who have come up to me and said, the narration really put it in perspective where New Jersey was geographically, as well as socially and musically within the tri-state area. Well, New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. But New York is mentioned as a city, Philadelphia as a city, New Jersey as a state. And I think it was important to differentiate New Jersey differently, to highlight and to why we felt we were the stepchild to the other.
Can I tell you what the biggest difference is? New Jersey, in addition to being a state, New Jersey is a state of mind. And it really is. It's a state of mind. One of the things that I want to thank you for, and I feel I have to do this, thank you for standing your ground. Because without that narration, it's not the same movie.
Absolutely.
It is not the same film. It's the difference between Gone with the Wind without Clark Gable. It's not the same movie.
Oh, it's a shame Mike's not on this, Nick, to hear that. What a great compliment.
Yeah, that is a great compliment.
It's not the same. So thank you for fighting and standing your ground. Fulvio is a guy who has a vision. He knows what he wants, and he's a hell of a director. But sometimes you got to buck the system a little bit. Yeah, and thank you for kicking his ass.
Well, the thing was that we had such a great crew. Mark, Brian, Mike Greenblatt, who wrote the script and was also the narrator. Monica Mason, who is my associate producer. And there were other individuals who were involved, but really at the end, this is the nucleus of the team that really worked very hard the last year to really kind of say, you know what, we're going to move this together. And when Fulvio made a decision, he and I became the parting of the ways. We had to open up. By the way, we also had limitations that weren't being addressed. For instance, November 1st, 2024. We had to have all our music licenses signed. Mark did an incredible job in negotiating, deals with all the companies, the record companies, to be able to get us something and keep it at a financially reasonable level that could be managed. Because I think we have about anywhere between 41 songs that we licensed. I think it was key to sort of keep that focus and that along. So once we started moving forward, it was a combination of Monica, Ryan, Mark, and Mike Greenblatt, all working together to really, in a collaboration that I have not seen in quite a while.
Yeah.
Everybody putting their opinions, but looking, sort of, okay, here are all the puzzle. We're giving a bunch of puzzle pieces. Which ones are the ones who actually work together? And that's really if I can put it in the most simplistic way, that was it. They were able to take all these pieces and create a puzzle that has, I think Steve was referring this to writing a song. We had to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we needed to find a nucleus to glue all that together.
Absolutely.
And we all realized that nucleus was the person who we felt represented New Jersey musicians and music, Southside, who was an incredible talent.
Oh my God, absolutely. That's the one guy. If I had the chance to do it, I'd love to sit down. I only had, and I told the story last night, guys. I hung out with Johnny Lyons years ago. He came to see a friend of mine, Mike LeCompte, play. You know who Mike is then, obviously.
I
Steve.
do, yeah, of course.
Okay, LeCompte is legendary in the New Jersey area, and Johnny came in to see him. Came to see him playing. Well, from 2:00, from the time they got off stage till like 10, 11 the next morning, we just sat around and drank and smoked and told stories about the good old days. I would love to have the opportunity to do that again. I want to talk to you, Steve, and Mark about the legalities of dealing with record companies. You can hardly put a video on YouTube anymore without getting a copyright strike.
Yep.
They so protect that copyright. I've had people on this show who wrote, recorded, and owned the copyright to their own music and still got copyright strikes from YouTube. I want to know what this minefield that you have to walk. What do you got to do? What kind of game you got to play with these guys, to make sure that you get what you want and they get what they want? Walk me through that quagmire.
Well, as songwriters, we do like that copyright protection is in place and everything. I understand that it can be frustrating for, an interviewer and even us. I know I've been on, several podcasts and different interviews or even radio interviews where then they'll post it on YouTube or even Instagram or something like that. And then they'll come back to me and say, hey, they won't let me include your song or whatever it's gone. But I mean, as long as you have the correct broadcast licenses and stuff like that, you really shouldn't run into any problems. Sometimes they're a little overprotective, and like you said, get in the way. Yeah, get in the way of something like this. Like, if we were to, I mean, we just sang a couple songs. Who knows? It might be, but we did it.
We'll find out. We'll find out in about 3 days.
Actually,
right. It's just.
It's a
I learned a lot from Mark when it comes to licensing, because he gave an example. He was trying to explain to the team the complexity of we need to decide what songs we want now. We can't just say, oh, we may want this, we want that. The songs, in essence, really was going to determine a good portion of the film. And Mark explained to me, well, I want to start it, but Mark, I'd rather you address it because you know more of the specific details. He said there was one particular song that was written by 3 musicians in a particular group. But those songs were then sold, and now you have them partialed out. The production agreement could be with one person, the master could be with someone else. So it became like a quagmire. The first thing is you have to figure out who owns what. And that was like a massive amount of time that Mark had to spend on that.
That's the biggest issue. Who owns what? Everybody. Right now, I will tell you guys right now, our show is broadcast in 32 countries in 19 languages. We deal with, right now, I am dealing with 17 different music publishing companies. I'm dealing with 4 owners of those 17 music companies. 4. You hear what I'm saying? 4 people own 17 companies. All right. And I have to deal with that. This is the kind of tiptoeing through the tulips I got to do.
Yes, he does.
Okay? And by the way, Stephen Plim owns that, and Stephen Plim's a friend of mine too. the manager of the late Tiny Tim. I digress. But
Yeah, it was
Amelia and I
interesting
go through this.
Yeah.
Mark, we go through this all the time. Amelia,
Oh, I'm
tell
sure.
me,
Yeah.
please.
I'm sure.
He does
All
all
the
the time.
time. It's
Yeah, you
nuts.
know.
The crazy shit that
Mhm.
we have to go through just to get, a release on. We have our release. Where the fuck is my release? Oh, I have to send releases out now. I never
yeah.
had to do that.
Yeah.
I have to send BMI, ASCAP releases out. Or I can't play it. For example, Lacey J. Dalton, the queen of country music, right? She's a dear friend of ours on the show. Whenever she comes on and sings a song or plays her music here, I gotta jump through hoops to get it on the air.
Yes.
It's crazy. Amelia, please tell me if I'm lying.
No, it is. It's
Mhm.
crazy. Not even like 10 seconds of it. He's got to do that. Yeah.
Randy,
Yeah.
how much did you have to deal with legally, and how much opposition did you have from the lawyers, from the legal eagles?
Actually, that portion, Monica, who has worked for many years, she worked for a couple of large companies. One was the Mark Cuban, the other one was Telemundo, I think. I'm not sure about that one, but so she's actually used to be a buyer for films, and also had to follow up on the compliance. So she was fully experienced in dealing with licenses from either the musicians to make sure we have the proper releases and the proper verbiage. I only really required my lawyers just very little in this case. And as I said, Mark did an incredible job in presenting this to the music companies and explaining, look, we're going to create a historical piece here, and
Mhm.
you're going to get promotion out of the musician and the music that you're licensing out. So you're going
Yeah.
to get exposure to that. Also, one of the things that we decided we were never going to use more, and I don't think we actually ever did, more than 30 seconds of any one song, right? Because it would have taken up too much time in the film. And that, I think, helped Mark to negotiate the prices, because we weren't asking for an arm and a leg,
Yeah.
We weren't asking for Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. I would have probably have to give my life away or my soul to the devil to be able to afford that. But
We did get
I
Fly Me
know
to the
a
Moon.
guy. Don't worry about it. I know a guy. I got a guy that's got a guy.
A guy is not a guy. I'm not the. But that was the thing. As for me, as coming new into this industry, it was a learning curve. But I had great mentors in Mark. I had in Ryan on a younger sense, because he's a young man, but would explain to me some of the processes of editing. Fulvio helped a little bit, and Monica also was an incredible source of. Well, she was my mentor in a lot of ways to help me sort of understand. I was able to then, as I mentioned, I've been 55 years in Wall Street. I changed many different job roles during my career, and it was all about, okay, understanding who the players are, understanding what is it that you're trying to accomplish,
Exactly.
what you have in hand available to you, and what you need to get. Once you understand that, it was easier for me to transcend moving forward. And I have to be honest, in a lot of ways, I just kind of sit back, I listen, I might have given a little suggestion here and there, but my team, okay, Monica, Mark, Ryan, Mike, these guys did an incredible job in putting this together and coming out with what I think is potentially a historical piece. But and I didn't fully answer, Bad Dog, when you asked the question, what was I looking to accomplish? I wanted to accomplish something that was historical, but more important, as equally as important, entertaining. So that someone who started the movie, right, and they got engaged with the opening scenes, then lose somewhere in the middle because, well, I've seen enough movies that I go, halfway, I go, this is boring. Do I really want to stick for another 30 minutes to watch this? We wanted to create a piece that resonated with everyone, not just one genre, not just one age group, but everybody can relate to it. And I honestly believe in sort of go back a step to where do I think that some of these musicians are? I think we're seeing a sort of rejuvenation of music to our younger folks who are now starting to appreciate the likes of heavy metal or the likes of pop music back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because there was a period of time that was sort of a movement. I almost felt like a lot of the younger swing singers, I think maybe like from 2005 to 2015, were sort of kind of trying to find their way. I think we found our way. The likes of Connor Bracken with Steve and his group coming out with new music, really generating the sort of interest and the desire to follow through. Interesting point when Ryan and Connor were on last night. The passion that you see in Mark and Steve, you could see in Ryan and Connor, and that is, I think, somewhat of the magic of New Jersey, that they
is
from the other musicians, and they never forget who they are.
That is an absolutely splendid. I couldn't do this any better. That's an absolutely splendid segue to ask Mark and Steve this question. Had you not made a dime on this film, would you still do it?
I don't think we have we? We would, yes, we would, of course. That was never the question. It was the immediate thing was going back to the question you asked earlier. How did I get roped into this, so to speak, or whatever? I got interviewed, which was great, and you walk out of the interview and you feel great about it, and you're like, oh, well, I hope I get in the movie and all that kind of stuff. And thanks to Steve for hooking me up with that. But then we're walking out the studio, and Fulvio says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have all these songs that I want to put in the movie, but I have no idea how to clear them. And then I was like, oh, well, that's what I used to do in Manhattan, before I moved down, and I still do it for certain projects. So, and it wasn't the case. It was just, how can you help? I mean, which is really, a Jersey thing. It's how can you help? How can I help? It wasn't how much can I make or what will this be or anything like that. It's like, and even as Randy said, when it came to that crossroads where, we had a 3-hour movie, but we really needed a 90-minute film, and we had to make a lot of serious decisions. And we brought up the fact that we really, really felt strongly, the team felt strongly that we needed that voiceover, and that Mike Greenblatt would be the right person for that. Not only could he write it, but he could speak it the best, and he could be, as he is in the film, New Jersey, the character New Jersey.
Oh, of course.
That was all done because we wanted it to be the best film it could possibly be, not because we were hoping we'd make $1 million or win an Oscar. Right. It was because we wanted it to be the best film it could possibly be.
But on a personal note, I would have no issues with that at all whatsoever.
Right. It would be great if we could make $1 million.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we were going to do the Jersey Sound Part 3 tomorrow night, but our friend Johnny Patillo and Tony Orlando are not available tomorrow, but they'll be with us on March 25th. So join us for Part 3 of the Jersey Sound of sorts with Tony Orlando, legendary Tony Orlando and Dawn, and Johnny Patillo, one of the originals, Danny and the Junior guys at the Hop. Rock and roll is here to stay. By the way, I found our release form. This is what we have to send.
Okay.
Our copyright release form. This is. I got to send this to every time I got a musician. What I would like you guys to do for me, when we go off the air, stay with me for a couple of minutes. I want to get some info from you. Amelia, tell everybody what's coming up.
Yes, of course. Starting in March, we have March the 3rd, which is Monday. We're going to talk about atheism.
Yep. Atheism on the rise.
Yes. And then on the 4th, Tuesday, we're going to talk about cyberbullying, which is getting very popular again, unfortunately.
It's a hot button issue. It's a hot button issue. And we're gonna have Mark and Steve on.
Yeah, cyberbullying. You know.
This is called musician bullying.
Yeah, yeah.
Now.
Amelia, final round of questions, Amelia, for the guys.
Just you guys have anything to promote where you guys are going to be next?
Actually, I'm
Sure,
glad you brought that up because Mark and Steve I think, are working on some projects that I'd love for them to share with your audience.
Absolutely, please.
Yeah, I'm now in a genre that's called trop rock, like tropical rock. It's kind of the Jimmy Buffett Parrot Head crowd
Yeah,
and all that
baby.
kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
baby.
and so I'm about to go down to Tampa, Florida, to play at a thing called Music on the Bay, and then I'm actually staying down there to record my next single, which will hopefully come out in just a few months after we get that finished.
Well,
You'll
I'll
be
tell
30
you
minutes
what.
away from me.
Let me make you an offer right now.
Sure.
Come on this show and premiere it.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. I would
You'll
love
only
to.
be 30
if
minutes
you got
away from me.
music video for it, come
All
on,
right.
we'll premiere it. And I'll
Great.
even send you a copyright release.
What do you got,
Yeah.
Steve-O?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve. Go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm starting March 19th. Trickster starts the second leg of the Spirit in 1989 tour. We're in our 41st year of touring the world and touring America. And we start out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the 19th, taking us out to the West Coast. And 2025, we already have over 35 shows booked for this year. So
When are you coming back to New Jersey?
We're not sure right now because last year we played Jersey twice, and you know the deal. You can't go to the well too many times. But
Yeah.
if I was a betting man, I would say probably in the late summer, fall, we're going to have a Jersey Trickster show at some point.
Beautiful.
But yeah.
Let me know. I will definitely be there.
All right.
I'll tell you what, guys. Randy, how do I say thank you to Randy Dominguez? You are a gem.
gracias.
You're a jewel, my friend. You have a welcome home here to promote anything you damn well please. You got my airways, brother.
Yeah.
And we reach a lot of people. I'm very grateful to announce that we have just under 17 million subscribers worldwide. As I said, 31 countries and 19 languages. So somewhere in Portugal, there's a guy who sounds like me going, Telemundo.
Fantastic.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm busting
It
shot.
probably has my accent, huh?
Yeah, I want to hear that woman. Oh man, you guys were an absolute pleasure to have. I'm gonna have you guys back on. That's why I want stay with
All
me.
right.
And I'm gonna get some info from you.
Sounds good.
On behalf of Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman, for Randy Dominguez, for Mark Mulch, for Steve Brown, I am the Mad Dog. This is America's Podcast. What's the Buzz?